Hi, in this section I want to explain about Photoshop interface, necessary or useful items in the interface, performance settings, important tools such as Move, Marquee, Lasso, Bucket Paint tool, Gradient, and more. Advantage and disadvantage of dodge and burn tools, modifying using transform, pen tool, layer management, adding mask to control the paint area, and more. It is only the summary of this section, but we will cover a lot. So let's start. In this video, I want to give you an introduction to the Photoshop. Of course, we cannot cover all of the tools and technique in Photoshop, but I am trying to explain the necessary knowledge that if you know, you can start with me, and in this course, finally, you can paint something like this. When you first run the Photoshop, you see this interface. On the top side, you can see menu bar. Below it, you can see option bar. And on the left side, you can see toolbar. On the right, you can see different panels. This is the document area. And this is the canvas, the area that we paint on it. Below it, here you can see the zoom level and extra info about your document. You can change this info. For example, if you change it to a scratch disk, you can see the amount of scratch disk that is available on your computer. If you can't see these panels or these tools, you can come here and turn on or off the item you want to see or you do not want to see. For example, tools are here. If I turn off, I cannot see it. Or option bar. If I turn off, I cannot see, but if I turn it on, I can see it. This area, option bar, displays the option of the current active tool. So if I change my active tool, this area will display different information. You can also turn on or off these panels by coming here. For example, I turn off brush setting or layers, or you can turn it off or press the shortcut. For example, shortcut for brush setting is F5. If you press tab, everything except the menu bar will hide. And if you press F twice, everything will be hide. This area is called rulers. If you want to draw a guideline, you can click on rulers and drag it inside the canvas. When you release the mouse, you can see this blue guideline appears on the screen. It is useful when you want to align several things at the same level. You can press Ctrl H to hide it, or you can come here, View, Show, Guides. You can also use this shortcut, but I use Ctrl H because it's easy to remember and it's hide all of the guides and selection in the scene. When you are working inside Photoshop, there are some settings that is very useful if you know them and understand how they work. Click on Edit, Preferences, Performance. If you come here, you can see this slider. It shows the available RAM on your system, and it shows the idle range and how much you want to allow that Photoshop use this RAM. All of it or none of it. If you have a good graphic card, you can activate Use Graphic Processor. It is very helpful in handling your scene. Another useful item is this one, History Status. I have set it to 80. It controls how many times you can undo inside Photoshop. This is Historic panel. I set it to 80. It means I can undo 80 times and return back to where I started. Scratch disk is also important. When the Photoshop needs more RAM than the available RAM that you have on your system, it will use a scratch disk to handle the file. I recommend to set your scratch disk on the fastest drive you have. Here, because the C drive in my computer is a SSD drive, solid state disk, I have selected C drive as my scratch disk. Let's talk about Photoshop tools. You can press this icon to make it smaller or longer. Or you can click here and while holding the left click, bring it to the side and then release your mouse. Now the tools become part of the interface. To undock it again, click and bring it inside the working area. The first tool that I want to talk about is Move tool. It's very handy and it's always help you to manage your scene. The shortcut is V and I recommend to memorize it because it's very useful. When you select this tool, here as you can see we have an item called Auto Select. If it is activated and if you click on a visible layer, you can see that the active layer here in the layer window will change. As you can see, it changed. If the auto select is off, if you click on a layer, you cannot move it. Actually the active layer will move. The problem with auto select is that sometimes maybe you click on an area and you do not want to select that layer. But if auto select is active, as soon as you click on a layer, it will be selected. I recommend to deactivate it, and when you want to select a layer, hold Ctrl, and as you can see by holding the Ctrl, the auto select will be activated, and when I release the Ctrl, it will be deactivated. So by holding Ctrl and click on a layer, you can easily select and move that layer. You can also right click on a layer and in the pop-up will show you all of the layer that is below the clicked point. Here we have layer and group. By default it is in layer mode. If I click, only the active layer will move. It doesn't matter if it's inside the group or not. But as you can see, the whole tree inside the group. If I set it to group and again hold Ctrl, all of the group will move. Look at the layers panel. If I set it to group and I hold Ctrl and I click on any member of this group, as you can see, now all of the group will be selected.